Welcome to another episode of Theological Sidebars. Hey, this is just a quick one. This actually, something I was thinking about that just came out of my own personal quiet time this last week. Question is, should we pursue the well-being of the place that we live in, and what does that actually look like? I don't know about you, but I have heard many times, people you will use the phrase, they'll say that, the prophet Jeremiah, he said that we should pursue the well-being of the city. So, case in point, let me open up my software, and let's just look at this for just a moment. Let me put it over here. If you look at Jeremiah chapter 29, this is this letter that God tells Israel when they're about to go into exile. Here's what it says. This is what the Lord, the armies, this is what the Lord of armies, the God of Israel, says to all the exiles. I deported from Jerusalem to Babylon. I build houses, live in them. Plant gardens, eat their produce. Find wives for yourself, have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons, and give your daughters to men in marriage, so they may bear sons and daughters. Multiply there, do not decrease. Pursue the well-being of the city I've deported you to. Pray to the Lord on its behalf, for when it thrives, you will thrive. Now that's important because I think oftentimes people use that and they say, hey, that's important for us to pray for the thriving of the city, of the place in which we live. But sometimes I think it gets murky of, well, what does that mean to pray for the city to thrive? How does that mean that we should be involved? And so this is the part that really struck me this week. I was reading in the book of Ezra, and the word choice that he uses about not pursuing the same thing in Israel is really key. Let me show you this. This comes from Ezra chapter 9, and notice this is what he is praying as he talks to the Lord about what's been happening, all the sin that is in Jerusalem and Judah now that the exiles have come back. Notice what he says. Now, our God, what can we say in light of this? For we have abandoned the commands you gave through your servants, the prophets, saying, the land you are entering to possess is an impure land. The surrounding peoples have filled it from end to end with their uncleanness by their impurity and detestable practices. So this is much bigger, by the way. If you kind of read what the issue is prior to this, is Ezra's come back, and it seems like the priests, the Levites, everybody's intermarrying with the Canaanite, or the people who are now in the land. But what Ezra's also telling us is the stuff that those people are involved with is pretty terrible. These are not just people who have a different religion. They're involved with some pretty bad stuff. This is the kind of stuff that why God wiped them out in the first place. So then he says this. So don't give your sons and daughters, do not give your daughters to their sons in marriage, or take the daughters for their sons. So he is saying, look, that we're not to marry in with those people. That also gives us a clue. That's probably not what God had in mind in Jeremiah. In Jeremiah 21, when he says, give your sons and your daughters, he's probably not meaning just intermarry with the people there, but continue to get married, continue to plant your life, seek the benefit of the city. But what does he mean? Because notice what he says in this Ezra passage right here. He says, do not give your sons and daughters in marriage to them. Never pursue their welfare or prosperity, so that you will be strong, eat the good things of the land, and leave it as an inheritance for your sons forever. After all that this has happened to us because of our evil deeds and terrible guilt, though you, our God, have punished us less than our iniquities deserve and allowed us to survive, should we break your commands again and intermarry with the peoples who commit detestable practices? Wouldn't you become angry with us so that you would destroy us, leaving neither remnant nor survivor? So let me stop there. And here's what a point I'm trying to make is, in one respect, and it's actually, when you look at the same word choice here, the words are very, very similar. So give your sons and daughters to get married while they're in the land of Babylon, while they're in exile. Come back to the land, and Ezra's saying, do not intermarry with these people. So that gives us a clue of God, what his commands to Israel. He wanted to keep them not going towards paganism by marrying outside of the faith. But But I think what's really interesting here is he doesn't say, despite all of this, pursue the welfare of the area as well. No, in fact, what he is saying is don't pursue the welfare of this area. This is not a place that you want to see thrive. This is not a culture. This is not something that you want to see more of. And so there's a distinction here. And so the question is, so what is this all about? What does this mean? What's the point, right? Here's the point. I think that what the instructions are to Jeremiah was, when you go to that land, do whatever you can to bless it. Work hard, put down roots, be the best, Jew that you can be while you're there in the land. And serve the Lord as best you can, even though you are far, far away. You're no longer there. There's no temple or anything like that. Contrast with the people of Ezra, and they come in, and they've come back. They have all this stuff, but nobody is now living for this. So that now the people are all mixed in. They're not following the Lord, and he's saying, don't ask for that to be blessed. Don't try to bless that and build that. Don't try to further that culture. Don't pursue that. And I think that's a caution to the people of God to say, okay, it's one thing to come in and to try to bless an area, pursue the welfare through the church, through God's witness, but at the same time, we want to be careful of what are we saying that we want to pursue the welfare of, or to find, or to pursue blessing for, right? And this is the key, is this is not this blanket, just bless whatever and ask that would go well. This is really a standard of righteous living that God wants for his people. So he tells the people of Jeremiah, in Jeremiah's day, go pursue their well-being, right? Pursue the well-being of the city that you've been deported to. In this case, these people are told, don't pursue their well-being, because what's going on currently at that time, that has nothing to do. This is not what you want. You don't want to pursue the well-being of this kind of a religious environment where the people are all, doing all sorts of crazy things. That might give us some instructions too. Maybe it leads towards how do we evaluate as churches? Maybe who do we partner with? Maybe there are some times where you have to say, nope, this is not a group that I would love to see, that I want to see God's blessing on. No, we're not gonna pursue that together. Regardless, I think this gives us some guardrails to just begin to think that we cannot live in an anything goes environment. We can't use the statements of Jeremiah as like a blanket to, hey, the church is just going to bless whatever, and we're going to partner with whatever and do whatever. But no, what we should be doing is evaluating what is going on around us. And if we're going to try to pursue and bring blessing in, it's going to be because we are bringing righteousness to that area, not adopting those standards, not looking to the world around us to say, how can we take that and become more like the world in an attempt to say, oh, we're here to bring blessing ultimately. Too many people who like to do that, where you look like the world, you adopt the culture, you adopt everything, and there's really no distinction between you and the world now, and you say, oh, I'm doing it to reach other people. I'm doing it to pursue them for Jesus, to bring that ultimate blessing. And that's really a cop-out. I think that's a good caution, though, here of when we look at what's going on, you don't just become like them and then say, let's pursue that and ask for well-being of that. I think there are some pretty strong standards and of things that we can look at definitively and say, we're not going to pursue this. We are not going to ask for any blessing on this. That is what, and we should contrast and say, God, help our community to thrive. Help us to, despite what may be going around, help the community here to thrive. And as we thrive, we will be a blessing to the city, to the area, but not because we have decided to become like them and just bless our work. So there's some distinctions there that I think are worth maintaining. And I think It is. It's good to read those. I think those are things, once you read them side by side, you have to look and say, something else is going on here. And that's really the story what's happening. The people have already gotten kicked into exile. He's having to say, while you're here, here's what you got to do. People are now back. They're living a life of, it's easier, definitely. They're no longer in exile. They're free to come back to their land. But now their land is being polluted because people have let down the standards, and they're no longer, that sting of deportation, that sting of exile is now gone. And now they're living back in the land, doing whatever they want to again. He's saying, don't pursue that. We're not going to pursue that. That's not weird. There needs to be a difference. And I think he uses that language on purpose to make a distinction of, this is not the season for that here. This is not what we are going to bless. This is not what we are going to be about. So I hope that helps. I still think that's something for us to think about as a church. Like, we do want to bless the communities, the cities, the towns that we're in. But how do we do it in a way that doesn't put a stamp of approval on unrighteousness and a stamp of approval on some of the weirdness and some of the sin that is perpetuated by our culture? How do we become a blessing and pursue the well-being of a place because we see the church as the one thriving and the things that God wants us to do as being kind of the direction in which we set, the course that we set for the areas in which we live. All right, I hope that's helpful. I think that's fun to just kind of find those little connections sometimes, to think through some of that. I think it's also helpful for us to recognize, right, that not everything are we supposed to just say, bless you, bless you. No, there's some times where we have to say, may God not bless. But I think we should also be thinking of, we are the church. We are the people of God. What do we do? How do we ask that God would make sure that what we present, what we build, what we put roots down in is a blessing ultimately for everyone, because it's been built on Him, built on Christ, and not just perpetuating the culture. All right, that's all I got for now. Hope that helps. Hope that makes sense. If you got any questions, throw it in there. If you've noticed any other passages like this or anything you think contributes, comment, let me know. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.